Hello Year 12 and welcome to our second video here on triangles. In our first exercise we looked at Pythagoras' theorem and we used all three sides of a triangle, of a right angled triangle, to find one of the missing sides. So we used two to find the third. The longest side, the one that's not connected to the right angle, we call the hypotenuse, and that will continue to be important as we move into our next topic, trigonometry. Now with trigonometry we don't use all three sides but two sides and an angle, and the relationship between those sides and a labelled angle that's not the right angle, one of the other angles, is particularly important when we do this. So let's talk about naming those sides first. We're going to talk about the adjacent side, and adjacent means next to or near. The adjacent side of a triangle, when we're doing trigonometry, is the one that's connected to both the labelled angle and the right angle. The one that goes between the angle and the right angle is the adjacent side. So here's some triangles. I've got a right angle, so it's a right angled triangle. Here's an angle that's been labelled. We don't know how big it is, that's my labelled angle. This side here will be the hypotenuse because that's the longest side and it's not connected to the right angle. This side here, right, across the bottom there in this case, connects the angle to the right angle, so that's the adjacent side. Again, a right angled triangle, a labelled angle, the side that connects the right angle and the labelled angle is the adjacent side. Again, right angled triangle, here's my angle, the side that connects the right angle and the labelled angle is the adjacent side. One more, right angled triangle, labelled angle, this one here is the adjacent side. Righto? So that's identifying the adjacent side in a right angled triangle, which is important when we're doing trigonometry. The other side, not the hypotenuse or the adjacent, the side that we haven't mentioned yet is called the opposite side. Right? It's opposite the labelled angle. If I drew an arrow through the labelled angle, it would hit the opposite side. It's not connected to the angle at all. Okay? It's the side that isn't connected to the angle, to the labelled angle. It's the opposite side. So in this case here, right, it's that vertical side. Again, here's my angle. This is the hypotenuse across the bottom. This is the adjacent on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, not connected to the angle, is the opposite side. Right angle triangle, labelled angle, right angle, adjacent, hypotenuse, and the one on the top in this case is the opposite side. And one more, right angle triangle, here's my angle, so this one here is the opposite. Now, we're going to talk about the tangent ratio today. Tangent abbreviated typically to tan. And the tan of an angle describes the relationship between the opposite and adjacent sides. We're not going to use the hypotenuse. Remember a little while ago I said trigonometry relies on two sides and one angle. Well, the two sides that the tan ratio uses are the opposite and adjacent sides. And to begin with, we're going to use the tan ratio to calculate the length of the opposite side. So today, what we're focusing on is calculating the length of the opposite side. And we do it like this. The opposite side of a right angle triangle is the adjacent multiplied by tan theta. So use the tan button on your calculator and put the angle in there. Here's an example. I've got a right angle triangle. I want to find the length of this side, x. Now there's the right angle. There's my angle. The hypotenuse here isn't labelled at all because we don't use that for tan. The side here labelled as 10, right? That connects the angle to the right angle, so that's the adjacent side. We're trying to find the opposite, so this formula here is going to work nicely for us. X is going to be equal to the adjacent times the tan of the angle, so 10 times tan 62. Type that into the calculator and we get x equals about 18.8 centimetres. Oh yeah. Well, that's it for today. So we recognize the opposite and adjacent sides of a right angle triangle. We identified those. And we remember the adjacent side is the side that connects the labeled angle to the right angle. The opposite side is the side that's not connected to the labeled angle at all. And we calculate the length of the opposite side by multiplying the adjacent side by the tan of the angle. Rightio, that's all. In our next video, we'll be looking at finding an angle using the tan ratio. But for today, we're calculating the length of the opposite side. Okay, if you've got any questions, make sure you ask your teacher. I'll see you in class.